All right, and hello and welcome everyone to our fourth session in this meditation series. It's so great to have so many people here again. It's so great to have so many familiar faces and familiar names. So welcome back to everyone. And for those that are new, really warm welcome to you. My name is Kevin Janks, and I'm going to be taking us through the next half hour's session. The bulk of the session I want to spend inside of meditation. And that's really the focus of this series. And then in addition to that, I also want to talk about this notion of uncertainty and set up a framework for which, somewhat of a new framework for you to be able to view uncertainty from. So that's where we're going for the session. And then at the end of the session, any questions that anyone has, please just feel free to ask them. So that's where we're going for the session. To start with, I want to just discuss this idea of uncertainty and our natural response to uncertainty, because as human beings, we respond in a quite a predictable way to uncertainty, and we respond usually with fear. Fear is a natural human response to uncertainty. And now, until recent times, most of this uncertainty was caused by physical threats. So the threats to our sort of physical existence. But nowadays we see them morphing into psychological and social threats as well. Now, that's not to say that there can't be physical threats as well. And taking COVID, for example, there is very much a physical threat there as well. But then if you look at it, there's also a psychological and social threat, or a social uncertainty or a psychological uncertainty to it as well. And when we find ourselves in this situation of being faced with quite an intense amount of uncertainty, there's one of two ways that we can go. And the first way is that we can fall into what I call the survive mindset, where we literally go into survival mode. Now, for some things that might be, particularly when faced with a physical threat, that might be a perfectly legitimate and perfectly logical thing to do. So if I was standing here and a lion kind of crept into my apartment and then jumped into the room, it would be a very healthy reaction for me to be experiencing the level of uncertainty in terms of, like, will this lion eat me or not? It's a pretty high degree of uncertainty, and it's a really high degree of physical threat to me. It would be perfectly rational for me to go into complete survival mode, where every system in my body, every system in my mind, everything is just directed to surviving. Really, really logical and really important. And we want the human body to be able to do this. And unfortunately, history has shown the human body does need to be capable of doing this. But then there's the other side of it, which is where we fall into this survive mindset when the threat is not necessarily, that lion jumping in front of us, where the threat might be more to our psychological or social sense of self or security. And I'd love to hear from a couple of people in the chat box. What do you think some of the characteristics of being inside of this survive mindset look like? So what are some characteristics of being inside of this survive mindset? What do you think they would look like? What would be happening in our mind? What sort of behavior would we be exhibiting? What sort of feelings would we be having? What sort of things would we be doing? Yep, thank you. And so there would be anxiety, you'd feel agitated. Yep, what else? What are some of the other things? And aside from being agitated, it would be things like panic thoughts, and that would turn into panic behavior. What sort of behavior? Think about what we saw during the height of the initial wave of COVID. What sort of behavior did we see the society exhibiting that was largely quite disturbing for a lot of people? And we saw it in the news all the time. Yep, aggressive, definitely. Aggressive behavior. And one of the reasons for the aggressive behavior is because it's a natural way to respond to fear is with aggression. It's a way that we overcome fear. Well, it's a way that we think that we overcome fear. So yeah, aggressive behaviors. And where were these aggressive behaviors happening? Yep, exactly. In the shops, particularly in the supermarkets, all this. And what we saw with that was panic buying. Now, panic buying is because, yeah, panic buying. And then someone has said, yeah, binge eating, really important as well. So the panic buying, in fact, I'll go to the binge eating. The binge eating can come from a couple of ways. Either it's boredom eating, or the fact that we're literally eating because scarcity appears everywhere. In that survive mindset, scarcity really does appear everywhere. It appears in terms of like, okay, well, great, I better eat as much as I can now, or it appears like I better get as much toilet paper as I can now, because scarcity is all we see everywhere that we go. And when we have this scarcity, what we try and do is, what do you think we try and do when we're sitting in this survive mindset? What do you think the ultimate kind of thing that we're trying to do as human beings inside of this survive mindset? We're trying to exert a degree of something over our environment. What do you think that is? Yes, thank you, thank you. From a couple of people, control. We're trying to exert a degree of control. In fact, to the point where we become obsessive about control. And now, yes, there are some things that we can control, and there is a point at which the obsessiveness about control actually becomes unhealthy and unproductive for us. And there's a range of different things, and I really do invite you to consider in your own context when you've what you've seen from before in your own life. What are some of the triggers that would indicate to you that you are inside of that survive mindset? Uh, and yes, unfortunately, it was a mode that particularly the Jewish community inherited as second generation Shoah survivors. Thank you for that comment. I totally I totally hear that. Totally hear that. And in addition to that, so yeah, so moving on from that, what is it that you have exhibited in the past? And you don't have to share this on the chat, but for me, I remember when at the height of that COVID first wave, I was sitting on my couch and I was just overcome with a fear. It was just in my entire body. I had a physiological reaction. My stomach was churning. I could feel this like heaviness in my my heart rate was up. And I started having these panic thoughts like, oh no, like, is this going to be the end of society as we know it? And that was real, that it was happening to me. And it was also a signal that I was inside of that survive mindset. Now, there's a couple of things. Yeah, and it is a natural response. And that's the thing that there's nothing to beat yourselves up for. It is a natural response to these sorts of things. And yet there is another mindset that we can do. And yeah, of course, this COVID has unfortunately acted as a trigger for a lot of mental health issues that are becoming coming really to the forefront of our society. And inside of that survive mindset, all we can do is things like obsess over control, react aggressively, see scarcity everywhere. We can survive. We can run from the threat. We're essentially being driven by that fear. Now, to a degree, it might be normal, but over the long run, it's not the healthiest way to live our life. There is another way and another mindset that we can shift ourselves in towards, and that's what I call the thrive mindset. Now, the first step in stepping into that thrive mindset is to actually identify what are your personal triggers for that being in that survival mindset. And then you're going to do a couple of things when you're inside of that survive mindset. You're going to actually stop and you're going to ask yourself this. You're going to say to yourself, what is it that I'm feeling, and where am I feeling it inside of my body? So what thoughts are passing through my mind? What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? And as you do that, you're going to also engage in the belly breathing. And in fact, I'm going to just share with you a little screenshot so that you can see this visually as well. So it goes like this. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, so in moving towards this thrive mindset, it's really important that we stop and we ask ourselves, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? So we stop, we close our eyes, we scan our body. So when I was sitting on my sofa, completely overcome with fear during that first wave of COVID, I stopped and I asked myself, what am I feeling? And I felt the churning of the belly. What are the thoughts passing through my mind? I know my business is ruined. Like, how are we going to get through this? Blah, blah, blah. And then as I'm doing that, as I just notice them, I'm not dwelling on it, I'm just stopping and noticing. Then I'm moving towards my belly breathing. Now, the belly breathing we've been doing at the beginning of all of our meditation sessions, and we'll do it again today. And I'm just belly breathing, and I'm helping myself, essentially, I'm helping calm my physiology. And then once I'm feeling a little bit calmer from the belly breathing, now I'm not asking myself over and over again, what am I feeling and where am I feeling it? That's not the point here. I'm getting clear on what it is, really objectifying it. Then I'm going to my belly breathing. And for me, it took about 40 minutes of this belly breathing until I was super, super, super calm. And then from that place of calm, I asked myself 3 questions, because there's always going to be 3 layers present in any given threat. And the threat is what creates the uncertainty. And those 3 layers are this: what is the physical threat? What's the social or psychological threat? And what's my sense of unknown? And then I asked myself, what's the physical threat? In this situation, it was like the physical threat of being an asthmatic and the risk of COVID. So that, I thought, wow, this might actually be something that could significantly affect me. What's the social psychological threat? Well, the disruption to my way of life, the disruption to my business, the disruption to my family. And then the sense of the unknown, which is all of those questions that I was asking before. But once I'm clear on those first 3 steps, what are those things? Those 3 layers, I should say. Then I ask myself this question: what novel response could I have to this situation? What is it that I could do newly that I haven't done before? And that is, after going through this process, asking that question, I was able to shift into what I call the survive mindset. The thrive mindset. And here is what the thrive mindset looks like. I asked myself, what novel responses could I have to this situation? And I realized that I could actually use the fear to my advantage rather than being used by it. And fear all of a sudden became an opportunity. And I used that fear as a driver of energy to completely turn our business around within 5 days. I ran pretty much a face-to-face only business. That we did a bit of online stuff, but it was 90% face-to-face. And within 5 days, we turned our business completely around. On the back of that energy, what novel responses could I have to this situation? So we start to see fear as becoming an opportunity rather than a threat. And as you start to consider, what novel responses could I have to this situation, what starts to happen is we start to equate uncertainty with, okay, I'm going to need to have a novel response to this situation. Uncertainty, okay, I need a new response. Uncertainty, okay, I need a new response. And then what we start to see is abundance starts to prevail over scarcity, because I start to see opportunity rather than just seeing what I'm short of. And so it goes and goes and goes and goes, right up until the point in which we can actually become so comfortable sitting in this uncertainty that we can actually become excited by the prospect of uncertainty. And of course, driven by that sense of curiosity and innovation. So as you hear this, I'd like you to consider for yourself, because naturally you would have found yourselves in different times sitting in either one of those 2 mindsets. And if you do find yourself in the future kind of falling into that survive mindset, go through that process. Just ask yourself what you're feeling, where you're feeling it, do your belly breathing, just allow your physiology to calm. Then look at those 3 layers of the threat. What's the physical threat? What's the psychological or social threat? And what's my general sense of unknown? And then once you've clearly identified that, ask yourself, what novel responses could I have to this situation right now? And step into a new paradigm. So that's a very high level overview of how we can actually use mindset to affect uncertainty. That all being said, meditation will have a huge benefit on helping you being able to shift this. Why? Because when we're meditating, we actually naturally see ourselves as separate from the whirlpool of thoughts and emotions that we can so quickly become identified and sucked into that fear-based mindset. When we meditate, we more and more pull ourselves out of that and create a bit of objectivity. So for me, in 40 minutes, I was able to turn what might have taken, say, someone that doesn't meditate or doesn't do any of these practices a few weeks to do. But nonetheless, it's possible. So meditation has a huge impact on that. So I could talk a lot of that, and I've essentially crammed a 45-minute workshop down into 15 minutes. So hopefully I've got all the guts of it. And now I want to move on to meditation. Getting nice and comfortable however you find yourself sitting. If you're wearing, I'm actually going to leave my glasses on because I look at the screen, but if you are wearing glasses, it's a good idea to take them off. Whenever you're ready, just closing your eyes. And for those that are more familiar with our practice from having done it over previous weeks, then you know where you're going with it. And for those that are less familiar, I'm going to be taking you through the whole thing, start to finish, so it's not a problem. So just having closed your eyes and started with that belly breathing. For those less familiar with the belly breathing, this is an excellent way to calm the nervous system. You can do it outside of the meditation as well. And you're just using that diaphragm, that big breathing muscle that sits right underneath your rib cage. And you're feeling your belly as it gently rises with each inhale. And feeling your belly as it gently falls with each exhale. And you're just taking this slow, steady breaths in through your nose if that's comfortable for you. And breathing in, almost using the diaphragm to gently pull the air down into your belly, or the base of your lungs, I should say. And breathing out. With each inhale, the belly is gently rising as the diaphragm travels down into your belly. And with each exhale, the belly is gently falling as the diaphragm travels back up into your chest. You can even feel free to rest a hand down on your belly just to feel that feedback. Feel that feedback of the belly rising with each inhale and falling with each exhale. And as you belly breathe, doing wonders to help calm your nervous system, a whole host of other benefits, and it's all happening regardless of how many thoughts you're having. So remembering with this meditation practice, it's nice and easy, nice and lazy, nice and effortless. There's no concentration or intense focus. It's just a nice, lazy, effortless awareness. Right now, that lazy, effortless awareness is on the belly breath. At any time, it could be my voice, might be your breath. And your awareness is resting on that belly breath right now in such an easy, lazy way that your mind will wander away. And the mind wandering away is exactly what's meant to happen. It's no problem. You're not trying to stop the mind from wandering or push the thoughts away. The mind wandering is an integral part of the meditation practice. All you're doing is gently resting your awareness on the anchor point, which right now is your belly breathing, at any time my voice. Your mind wanders away. At first, you have a realization or a recognition that the thoughts are there as you're resting your awareness on that anchor point. So, right now, as you're doing the belly breathing, you might notice some thoughts. That's totally fine. And then at some point, your mind will just wander away and you won't know that it's wandered away. Now, that mind wandering away without you even realizing is exactly what's meant to happen. And then at some other point through the meditation, you're just going to have the spontaneous realization that the mind had wandered away. And only at that point are you easily and effortlessly going to return your awareness back to the anchor, whether it's my voice or your breath, wherever we are. And then just allowing your awareness to return back to a normal, comfortable breath. And we'll just gently go through our body, scanning it with our minds, allowing a bit of built up tension to be released in that process. So starting at your face, allowing your forehead, your eyebrows, your jaw to gently release. Allowing your shoulders to sink away from your ears, melting towards the floor. And then moving your awareness into your chest, just taking a nice, big, deep cleansing breath into the top of your chest, letting it all go through your mouth, allowing it to come out as a sigh or a yawn. Never doing any of this to the point of discomfort. And then just returning to a breath through your nose if that works for you. Moving down into your belly. This time imagining yourself gathering up any remnants of tension with a full, steady breath into your belly. Feeling your belly rise as you breathe in. And then whenever you're ready, letting it all go on a complete and cleansing exhale. Feeling your belly sinking a little bit further into the back of your chair. Moving down into your thighs. And over your next few breaths, allowing your thighs to become a little bit softer and softer with each exhale. And it's okay if no physical release takes place in your body. It's just about going through this process in your mind. That's enough. There's no such thing as a good or a bad meditation. The only results that count will be those that you feel outside of the meditation in your everyday life. Moving down from your thighs, all the way down into your feet, just allowing your soles to rest into the floor and your toes to be nice and loose. And then finally, moving your awareness down your whole body once more, starting at your head. On your next exhale, releasing your breath all the way to your toes. And then simply allowing your awareness to rest on your breath, any part of your breath, whether you find your breath most prevalent at your nose or your belly, somewhere else in your body. Just gently resting your awareness there on your breath. No concentration, no focus. A nice, lazy, easy, effortless awareness. Your mind will wander away, and that's totally fine. It's only when you have that spontaneous realization that the mind had wandered away, you're easily and effortlessly returning your awareness back to your breath, always doing so without trying to push away any thoughts, never trying to resist any sensations or experiences, not even resisting sleep. And you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. All the thoughts and the emotions are just passing through. And I invite you now to let go of your breath, letting go of any anchor point, and simply rest for these last minute or so, just allowing the effects of the meditation to sink in, keeping your eyes closed, but feeling free to recline or stretch out into a comfortable position. I'll be keeping the time still. And then just starting to deepen your breath, becoming aware of your body, and in your own time, gently starting to bring some movement, starting at your fingers, your toes, increasing this movement only when you're ready, stretching, and twisting if needed. And then from this place, just before opening your eyes, tuning in and noticing how you're feeling. Are you feeling a little more calm? Are you feeling a little more centered? And if the answer is yes to any of that, then just setting your intentions to carry these feelings with you for the rest of your day. There's absolutely no rush. Whenever you're ready, very slowly opening your eyes. So that meditation was just over 15 minutes. So a really good length of time to be meditating. And I really acknowledge everyone that's been on the call today or the session today. I will be taking questions in just a moment. Just a couple of things to wrap up these last 4 weeks. If you'd like to get in touch with me, I've just put my email address and as well the website of my organization. So if you'd like to get hold of me for any reason at all, in terms of anything you'd personally to do, or something perhaps in your family, friends, if you have anyone that you think should be meditating, we've got a whole massive meditation program, both for individuals and for businesses as well. So if any of that is of interest to anyone, then please do get in touch with me. But more so, I do hope that we can continue these sessions in one way, shape, or form in the future. I'm not sure how that might look, but stay posted. And this session is recorded as well, so it is made available, I believe, after the session as well to go over it again. So I really acknowledge each and every one of you for being on these last few sessions, and yeah, just so great to have such an awesome group of people to work with.